The next 10 years are already being written. The terrifying part is that most people won't realize what they've written until it's too late to erase it. Every habit you repeat today, every excuse you accept, every hour you waste without thinking, they're all casting votes for the person you'll become. And one day you'll wake up, look around at your life, and discover that the future didn't happen to you. You quietly build it, one ordinary day at a time. Most people believe life changes in dramatic moments. A lucky break, a promotion, a perfect opportunity. But history tells a different story. Great lives are rarely built by giant leaps. They're shaped by small decisions repeated long after the excitement disappears. That's why two people can stand in the exact same city, work similar jobs, earn similar incomes, and 10 years later live completely different lives. The difference wasn't talent. It wasn't intelligence. It was what each person chose to do when nobody was watching. Jim Rohn often emphasized that success is something you attract by the person you become, not something you chase. That idea sounds simple until you realize what it demands. It means the future isn't waiting to reward your wishes. It's responding to your habits. Every action either builds the person capable of success or quietly trains someone who will keep missing it. Imagine planting two identical trees on the same day. One receives water, sunlight, and attention every week. The other is ignored because someone assumes they'll take care of it tomorrow. For months, both trees seem almost identical. Anyone passing by would struggle to notice a difference. But seasons don't care about intentions. Eventually, one grows strong enough to survive storms. The other begins to weaken from years of neglect. Human potential works exactly the same way. The frightening truth is that life's biggest losses rarely arrive with warning sirens. They arrive disguised as ordinary days. One skipped workout becomes a year without movement. One unnecessary purchase becomes years of financial stress. One evening wasted becomes thousands of forgotten hours. Nothing feels dangerous in the moment. That's why so many people drift without realizing they're slowly moving away from the life they once imagined. Psychologists call this present bias. Your brain naturally gives more importance to immediate comfort than future reward. It whispers that tomorrow is always available, that next Monday will be different, that next year you'll suddenly become more disciplined. But tomorrow has fooled millions of people. It always arrives wearing the same clothes as today. Think about the people you admire. Entrepreneurs who built companies from nothing. Athletes who became champions. Artists whose work changed culture. Their stories often look extraordinary from the outside. But when you zoom in, something surprising appears. Their greatest advantage wasn't motivation. Motivation comes and goes like weather. What separated them was their willingness to keep moving after motivation disappeared. There's a reason this matters more than ever. Modern life has become incredibly good at stealing attention while making you believe you're making progress. Endless scrolling feels productive because you're consuming information. Watching successful people online feels inspiring because your brain mistakes observation for action. You finish the day mentally exhausted, yet nothing in your actual life has changed. It's one of the most expensive illusions of our generation. Picture yourself 10 years from now. Not the fantasy version, the real one. The person created by your current daily routine. What kind of conversations are you having? What does your bank account look like? How healthy is your body? How peaceful is your mind? Those answers aren't hidden somewhere in the future. They're quietly growing inside today's choices. Here's what almost nobody wants to admit. The greatest competition you'll ever face isn't another person. It's the version of yourself that keeps negotiating with comfort. Every morning there's a silent conversation happening inside your mind. One voice says you've earned another hour of sleep, another distraction, another excuse. The other voice asks a far more uncomfortable question. What if the life you want is hiding behind the thing you're avoiding today? That question has changed countless lives because it forces you to see something most people never notice. Every meaningful transformation begins long before anyone else can see it. Long before the applause. Long before the success. Long before the results. And the next lesson reveals why so many intelligent people still fail to change, even when they know exactly what they should do. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because knowing and becoming are two completely different things. Information has never been easier to find. Wisdom has never been harder to practice. Every bookstore, podcast, and video platform is overflowing with advice. Yet millions of people finish another year exactly where they started. Not because they lacked answers, but because they never became the kind of person who could live them. Think about the last promise you made to yourself. Maybe it was to get in shape, save money, wake up earlier, finally start that business. For a few days, everything felt different. You were excited, focused, certain this time would be different. Then life happened. A stressful week. One missed day. One bad decision. Suddenly, the promise quietly disappeared, buried beneath another excuse that sounded reasonable enough to believe. The problem wasn't your goal. It was your identity. Behavioral psychologists have discovered something fascinating. People naturally act in ways that match the story they believe about themselves. Someone who sees themselves as unhealthy doesn't simply skip workouts. They unconsciously protect that identity. Someone who believes they're always broke makes financial decisions that keep proving the story true. It's as if the mind is constantly trying to stay consistent with the person it already thinks it is. That's why lasting change feels so difficult. You're not just changing habits. You're challenging an identity that may have been growing for years. Imagine carrying around a backpack filled with invisible bricks. Every disappointment adds another brick. Every failure whispers, maybe this is just who you are. Every broken promise makes the load heavier. Eventually, you stop asking what's possible. You start asking what's realistic. And without realizing it, you confuse your past with your future. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your past explains you. It does not define you. History is full of people who look completely ordinary until one decision changed the direction of their lives. Colonel Sanders didn't become successful until later in life, after countless rejections. Many entrepreneurs built their greatest companies only after painful failures. Elite athletes have suffered devastating defeats before becoming champions. Their breakthrough didn't happen because life suddenly became easier. It happened because they stopped measuring themselves by yesterday's results. The brain is constantly rewiring itself. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. Every repeated action strengthens certain pathways while weakening others. In simple terms, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're not just completing a task. You're literally teaching your brain what kind of person you are becoming. That's why small wins matter far more than dramatic promises. Reading 10 pages every day seems insignificant. Saving $20 feels almost pointless. Walking for 30 minutes doesn't look life-changing. But those actions send a powerful message to your identity. They quietly say, I'm someone who finishes what I start. Months later, something remarkable happens. Discipline stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling normal. The person who once struggled to wake up early now does it automatically. The person who feared difficult conversations begins facing them with confidence. The individual who constantly searched for motivation no longer waits for feelings. They move because that's simply who they've become. And that's exactly where most people watching this video are standing right now. Not at the edge of success, not at the edge of failure, but at the edge of a decision. Because every ordinary day asks the same question in a different way. Will you reinforce the identity that has kept you stuck? Or will you begin building one that your future self will thank you for? Here's the part that's uncomfortable. Time doesn't reward potential. It rewards consistency. The world is filled with brilliant people whose gifts never became reality because they waited until they felt ready. Meanwhile, someone less talented but relentlessly consistent quietly passed them by. Not overnight, not in a month, but year after year. Invisible progress became undeniable results. And there's another trap that quietly steals entire decades from people's lives. It feels harmless at first. In fact, most people mistake it for patience. But once you recognize it, you'll never look at procrastination the same way again. The most dangerous trap isn't failure. It's delay. Because delay has a way of disguising itself as preparation. It convinces you that you just need a little more knowledge, a little more confidence, a little more money, a little more certainty. Before long, months become years, and the life you plan to build remains trapped inside your imagination. There's an old image worth remembering. Picture a ship anchored safely in the harbor. The paint is perfect. The ropes are secure. Nothing threatens it there. But ships were never built to spend their lives tied to a dock. They were built to face waves, storms, uncertainty, and open water. Human potential works the same way. Comfort feels safe, but it quietly becomes a prison. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, you strengthen fear. Every time you postpone a meaningful goal, hesitation grows stronger. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're casting another vote for the person you promised yourself you would never become. Here's what makes this so dangerous. Life rarely announces missed opportunities. The business you never started doesn't send you a letter 10 years later. The skill you never learned doesn't remind you how valuable it could have become. The relationship you never invested in doesn't show you the life you might have shared. Instead, regret arrives silently. It appears in ordinary moments. Watching someone younger achieve what you once dreamed about. Looking back at old journals filled with goals that never became reality. Wondering why time seemed to move so much faster than you expected. And then asking yourself a painful question. What happened to all those years? The answer is almost never dramatic. They disappeared one comfortable day at a time. Ancient Stoic philosophers practiced an exercise that many people today avoid because it feels uncomfortable. They regularly imagine the end of their lives. Not to create fear, but to create clarity. When you recognize that your time is limited, trivial distractions begin to lose their power. Petty arguments become smaller. Endless comparison becomes meaningless. Suddenly, the question changes from what do I feel like doing today to what actually deserves a piece of my life. That perspective is powerful because time is the only currency you can never earn back. Money can return. Health can often improve. Skills can be learned, but yesterday is gone forever. This is why successful people guard their attention so fiercely. They understand that attention is where life happens. Whatever consistently captures your attention eventually shapes your identity. If your attention belongs to distractions, your future belongs to distractions. If your attention belongs to growth, your future slowly begins to resemble it. Think about a sculptor standing in front of a massive block of marble. To everyone else, it's just stone, but the sculptor already sees the masterpiece hidden inside. Each strike of the chisel looks small, almost insignificant, yet thousands of careful strikes eventually reveal something extraordinary. You are both the sculptor and the marble. Every disciplined choice removes another piece of the person you no longer want to be. Every difficult decision uncovers more of the person you've always had the potential to become. No one else can do that work for you. Not your family, not your friends, not your circumstances, and certainly not luck. Because luck may open a door. Only preparation allows you to walk through it. The people we admire didn't suddenly become confident after success. Confidence followed repeated evidence. They kept promises to themselves. They acted when they were uncertain. They continued after failure. Over time, their minds collected proof that they could handle difficult things. That's real confidence. Not believing you'll never fail. Believing you'll keep moving even if you do. Imagine waking up exactly 10 years from today. One version of you looks back with gratitude because today's discomfort became tomorrow's freedom. The other version carries a weight that no amount of money can remove. The weight of knowing they had enough time, but never truly used it. And that leads to the final realization. One truth that separates people who transform their lives from those who spend decades waiting for the right moment. That final lesson changes everything. The people who transform their lives aren't the ones who wait for the perfect moment. They're the ones who realize that perfect moments never arrive. There is no morning when fear completely disappears. There is no calendar date marked. Today you are finally ready. There is no magical feeling that guarantees success before you begin. There is only a decision, and then another, and another, until those decisions become your character. One day you'll notice something extraordinary. The habits that once felt impossible have become automatic. The discipline that once required enormous effort has become part of your identity. The future that once seemed far away has quietly become your present. That's how real change happens. Not through one massive breakthrough, but through thousands of invisible victories that nobody applauds. Imagine standing at the end of your life with the chance to meet the younger version of yourself, the person watching this video today. Would they recognize the person you became? Would they thank you for protecting their dreams, or ask why you traded them for comfort? That question matters because one day it won't be imaginary anymore. Time has a strange way of speeding up. Children become adults. Parents grow older. Friends drift away. The calendar fills itself. One birthday becomes another, then another, until you suddenly realize that the years you thought you had are no longer in front of you. They're behind you. This is why the next 10 years will decide everything. Not because something extraordinary is guaranteed to happen, but because ordinary days never stop adding up. Every sunrise places another brick on the foundation of your future. Every evening records another vote for the person you're becoming. You cannot pause that process. You cannot negotiate with it, whether you act or not. The next decade is being built anyway. So the real question isn't whether your life will change. It will. The only question is whether you'll be the architect of that change, or simply the spectator watching it happen. Jim Rohn believed that we all have two choices. We can live with the pain of discipline, or we can live with the pain of regret. Both are difficult, but only one leads to freedom. The other quietly steals dreams until there's nothing left to chase. Years from now, nobody will remember how comfortable you were. They'll remember the life you built. More importantly, you'll remember. You'll remember the mornings you chose courage instead of convenience. The evenings you kept your promises when no one was watching. The opportunities you created because you refused to wait for permission. Those moments will become your story. Not because they were dramatic, but because they changed who you became. So when this video ends, don't let it become another piece of motivation you consume and forget by tomorrow morning. Close the gap between knowing and doing. Choose the conversation you've been avoiding. Write the first page. Make the phone call. Apply for the opportunity. Open the business. Read the chapter. Take the walk. Save the money. Wake up earlier. Do the one thing your future self has been begging you to start. Because 10 years from now, you'll never wish you had spent more time waiting. You'll only wish you had started sooner. The clock is moving. The future is watching. And the person you'll become is being shaped by the decision you make next. Make sure it's a decision that your future self will be proud to remember. If this message genuinely challenged the way you think, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more timeless lessons, and share in the comments the one action you're committing to today.